But I think I am delighted to announce, I'm sorry, sir, that Her Royal Highness is the winner. I
Welcome to the broadcast, my dears. Isn't it nice to have a moment of levity in such serene proceedings? I've got a feeling that Big Willie is used to seeing that manoeuvre. Don't you, my dears? I've got a feeling he knows that manoeuvre all too well. Catherine was very quick there with her hands, wasn't she? On the shaft, or whatever it was there. Wonderful. She was launching her very first ship. Isn't that something? It was a naming ceremony for HMS Glasgow, of which Catherine is sponsor. This was on the bank of the River Clyde. Look out for Bonnie. But this was not the Duchess of Sussex, it was the Duchess of Rothesay. Yes, Catherine was in her Scottish role. She was serene and chic, and as I've said before many times, and I will say it again, William could not have found a better match, a better companion, a better consort. Whether he searched the globe over 1,000,000,000 times, none could compare to our fair Catherine. None. The breathtaking pride of our nation she is, at the tiller, steering the Wales family legacy into her queendom and his kingship, most assured. By the way, these earrings aren't coming over quite as well as I thought they might do. I've got a bunch of grapes on either ear. Isn't that wonderful? On each lobe there is a bunch of grapes for all the fruits in the fruit basket, but I'm afraid they look a little bit like sheep droppings, don't they? Look a little bit like a pile of sheep turd, but what can you do? I should have dipped them in a pot of purple glitter to make them a bit more fruity. I actually put purple stones on today. This tiara has purple stones, but they read black sometimes. So it's not really having the grape effect that I wanted it to have, but I digress. She was wearing Susanna London, this coat dress in navy, what else? And she was wearing Diana's cabochon sapphire drops to the earlobes. A little bit more impressive than my confection, I suppose. And the white stripe you see here conceals a zip running down the middle so that she can wriggle into the garment, you see. The brooch was designed by James Porter and Son, who are a jeweller in Scotland, one of Scotland's oldest jewellers, established in 1858, and they were invited to create the piece based on the ship's crest. It bears the insignia of HMS Glasgow, and it's adorned with thistle leaves. Very nice indeed. One of the things that's been crucial to Catherine's success is the fact that she understands the psychology behind clothes, not just how to throw on a number and have it fit and cut and tailored, etc. It's the psychology behind the clothes and the outfit and the wardrobe, you see. It's not only how they project an image, but it's also how they can make one feel. This is what's so important about clothing. It's how it makes one feel and therefore has an effect upon one's deportment, one's posture, one's gait, one's bearing, and one's humour. Yeah, the humour. And it's why Catherine is always appropriate. Always, no matter what she's doing, she is always dressed appropriately. And I realise it's comparing apples with oranges, but it's in very stark contrast to the Duchess of Sussex. Do you understand? The starkest contrast possible. Because she cloaks herself in flappy, floppy designer apparel, worth gazillions and trillions, when she goes to read her dreadful poetry to the poor of Harlem, the poor children and the peasants and paupers. Do you understand? She wears plunging, poached tomato skin gowns to the Salute and Freedom Gala. Entirely inappropriate. And actually it was the late Queen who thought that Meghan's wedding gown was too white for a second wedding. So we're told. That's the rumour anyway. She thought it was too white for a second wedding. Oh, that's our late Queen Liz, isn't it? Well, actually, it's usually Harry and Meghan, or the likes of Ngozi Fulani, or even Ajay Ando, complaining that the balcony at the palace is too white. But in this case, it was Queen Elizabeth who thought something was too white. Your wedding gown, Meghan.
I have the pleasure to
On a podium before a crowd of hundreds, Catherine named the ship and she asked for God's blessing. She released a bottle of exclusive single malt whisky that's made by Clydeside Distillery, and this ceremonial act is said to bring good luck and fortune to the vessel and its crew. Well, it's interesting, you know, the Titanic was not christened when it was launched. There were 100,000 people in attendance, But the policy of the White Star Line was not to organise traditional ship christening ceremonies. And as the Duchess of Cornwall back in 2007, Camilla's bottle that was launched onto the Queen Victoria cruise ship did not break. And a few weeks later, dozens of passengers fell ill, and the press had a field day calling it the curse of Camilla. I'm sure the late Diana would have loved that, and Harry, let's face it. Well, Catherine was named sponsor of HMS Glasgow in 2021, and this is an 8,000-ton warship, a state-of-the-art anti-submarine frigate. And at the Shipbuilding Academy, their Royal Highnesses met with apprentices and graduates, and they had a go at completing a pipe-building challenge. The Duke of Rothesay then paid a visit to the Leith Community Centre in Edinburgh. The Leith police dismisseth us. Do any of you know that tongue twister? It just came to my mind talking about Leith. The Leith police dismisseth us. Shining a light on the power of community-led social impact, they were. The Wales's Royal Foundation announced a new community impact partnership with Street Soccer Scotland, who are based at the youth centre. And William must be in clover because this is his great love, isn't it, football? So boring for me, but he really loved having a kick about, showed off his skills, and he was dressed in navy. Do you see how the prince dresses? Take a good look. Do you see the prince dressed in navy, how he dresses? He dresses so well, doesn't he? So boldly. And I'd certainly say that he dresses to the left. Yes, he does. He viewed a class in martial arts, which is all jolly good fun, but then we have to move on to Little Miss Perfect herself. Little Miss Authenticity. Little Miss... ting, 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 with the flash of a manicured grin. MEGHAN Sussex, who we are told handed a sweet, hand-curlicued note to cabin crew on a flight hosted by American Airlines, and it appears that an air hostess from this flight brandished the note on TikTok. And I haven't had time to double-check and verify that this story is 100% accurate in this letter, but it's what the papers are reporting on today, and it appears to be so. Her name is Nina Vida, and she was very gushy about Meghan, I've got to tell you. She said,
"You guys will not believe who I just had on my flight, who I had a pleasure of serving."
Catherine?
The Queen, the Princess, the Duchess of Sussex? Sussex?
Is this actually policy for American Airlines? Is it within their policy for their staff, for their servants, to be brandishing this sort of thing on social media, revealing who was taking their flight, breaching all kinds of goings on, and their role in the airplane?
The Meghan Markle was on my flight, and she's so beautiful in person. She was so sweet. She wrote us a little handwritten note back. So
people make such a fuss about all this, handwritten that. How else would one write a handwritten note in the sky? Portable fax machine?
She wrote her note that said, "It's a pleasure of serving you. We love you real bad." And she wrote this note back that says, "Dear AA girlies, thank you for the love, hospitality, and handwritten note. You know me well."
How else does one handwrite a note other than passing on something handwritten? Oh, it was done by hand. As if it's a miracle. As if it's some sort of great skill.
"All love right back to you." And then I think it says, "Forever, Meghan."
Well, of course, Meghan never misses an opportunity to merch, does she? And that's what she was doing. Another little branding gimmick.
You know, I can barely read this cursive.
So, of course, she's hustling for attention. The only surprise, for me, was the fact that she was taking a commercial flight. Maybe she's run into hard times, who can say? But the hostess goes on to say,
"But look at this handwriting is giving rich, it's giving expensive, it's giving princess."
Oh, it's giving. Go girl, and do your homework. Do your homework, lovey. It's not giving princess, it's giving impersonation and parody of a princess. Because royals write like everyday folk. It's casual, it's spontaneous, it's sloping, it's slapdash. Like everyday folk, my dear, they don't make pretensions. You know, unless you're talking about Queen Elizabeth I rather than the second. You know, unless this is probably what Meghan does. She goes back looking at the handwriting of the late Elizabeth I from centuries ago. What's she going to do, launch an armada of curlicues and hurl them towards the world? Well, she's doing just that.
She also said she loved my nails, and the captain on my last flight said they were intense. So, sir, it doesn't matter what you think. The Queen says she likes them.
Well, listen, this isn't Nina, the air hostess's fault. I'm not mean to have a go at you, my dear. But, you know, there was a time when short, trimmed French tips was about as intense as you were allowed to get when you were air hostessing a flight. You know, and rightly so. Times have changed, I understand it. You get all these creatures strutting about in platform heels and glitter these days, don't you? As if they are on Broadway rather than serving you a cup of tea on your fucking flight. Do you understand? They think it's their time on New Faces. They think it's time that opportunity is knocking. They think it's the X Factor and that Simon Cowell is replicated in the audience, and Paula Abdul and Sharon Osbourne. I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm going to serve you because you're serving. You're serving, girlfriend. Just serve me my cup of tea and get on your fucking way. No disparagement meant, but you understand. This is getting outrageous. You know, the only performance that I want from cabin crew, you know, we all love a little camp gay boy getting up, blowing his whistle, flapping about with his arms, doing his Vogue choreography. Did my lampshade just wriggle? Grandma, is that you? I'm sure that cherub just wriggled. You know, I've got no intention of depriving a little gay boy of the limelight. This kind of thing, it's wonderful, makes one smile, and nobody listens to the instructions anyway, do they? If you're going to die on a plane, you're going to die. So it doesn't really matter about the inflatable slide that hangs out the side of the plane. But you understand, we don't need the entire cast and crew of the letters community doing the Ziegfeld follies every time we get on a flight. It's vulgar and it's infra-dig. Well, as ever, reports are emerging surrounding Meghan's boss, Ted Sarandos, the CEO at Netflix. Apparently, he's going to be giving the green light for a third series of With Love. Ugh! Jeepers creepers, 3 times the charm. A source has told Alison Boshoff that despite poor ratings and the limp reception that we all witnessed, what people do not understand about the situation is that Ted Sarandos is a massive, massive fan of Meghan personally. Woo! And this guy's in charge of Netflix. He calls her the rock star. She's about as rock and roll as the Osmonds. This source says there is no way that her deal does not get renewed. Ted is in the Meghan business, and that is not about to change. He's all in. But there is good news because it's believed that this new deal is going to be a much reduced offer to what they're used to. And this time, Harry's out the picture. So for this 7-year itch, there's going to be friction because this is going to be focused entirely on Meghan, and it will be without a big advance this time, because he might be a great big fan of Meghan, so we're told, but she's not actually making him much money, is she, or doing much to enhance the reputation of Netflix. Now, if you remember in my previous broadcast, I shared my distaste at seeing very heavily pregnant women marauding about in vulgar style, sometimes. I shared the late Queen's preference for pregnant women to withdraw from view. Sounds so wicked, doesn't it? Not out of shame, not out of anything other than discretion, sacred mystery, the holiness of the true beauty of such a state. You know, if one must appear with the body in distended form, as nature intended, then a large smock or a caftan is absolutely de rigueur. Do you understand? That's fine. That's just fine. Put yourself in a large smock. You know, even a muumuu. A muumuu will do. What I don't care to see is every single vein bulging out. I don't care to see an engorged belly button straining underneath a bodysuit, or, you know, nipples praying for release and for sweet relief. No, I don't wish to see that sort of turgidity, and I don't care who it offends. I also don't care to see full breasts exposed during feeding time after the bairn is born. I don't care to see it. It's a natural function. Mothers have to be able to feed all over the place, but they're also able to carry a discreet muslin veil. Do you understand? Just discreetly. Cover the baby and your norks with the veil. They do not have to be hanging out like udders for the feed. Do you understand? And for the milking? No. So that's what I'm talking about. Well, most of you took my remarks, by the way, in very good spirit. Cheerful spirit, I should say, and good humour. And I thank you for that. Genevieve Honorato said, OK, River, some of us pregnant people have... Pregnant women, should we say that, my dear? Some of us pregnant people have jobs, so we do have to be out and about in the public forum. Lol. SMH, shake my head. You're absolutely right, my dear. Of course you are. There has to be exceptions. I understand that. I just like to hold forth. But having said that, you know, work from home. Work from home. You know, work from home or go marauding around in your smock and your caftan. You know that. Or send hubby out. That's what husbands are for. Send the husband out. Why are you working anyway? Jesus Christ. Some of you ladies need a good talking to. Do you understand? And then Faye says, I entirely agree with your views of displaying pregnancies in the raw. I wasn't one of those women who admired Demi Moore for displaying her bare bump. No. Equally, wearing very tight-fitting clothes whilst pregnant. One of the most unattractive looks ever, I think. Loose-fitting dresses are far more feminine, but spare me the bow in the hair. Markle went to great lengths to display her pregnancy by wearing closely fitted clothes, in particular the disgusting black dress showing an enormous unnatural shape. Well, it's curious, isn't it? When we looked over Meghan's anniversary tribute, the mood board in the last broadcast, I hadn't even noticed. I've got to confess, I hadn't even noticed the main event and, of course, the big story. Right over my head, my dear, which was a photograph of Meghan heavily pregnant. Showing it all off. Showing it all off. In profile. No less. In profile. Proud as punch. Unbelievable. This is a royal duchess we're talking about. What's she going to do next? Get her fanny out. Well, I'm aware, of course, that there's a minority, although admittedly a very large minority and a very vocal minority, who are very invested in the Harkle story, who are truly and utterly convinced that Meghan's used surrogates, that she wears moon bumps, that she's been photoshopped, that it's subterfuge. So I want to state that because nobody has to restate those hunches. Trust me, I've been here 4 years. I know them all. You don't have to try and convince me of your hunches. Naturally, lots of these types, and some of you, I'm sure, are already claiming that it's a prosthetic that we see in the photograph. Well, even if Meghan was to release a video footage, not just photographs, but even if she came out and released a video of her clamped in stirrups in the middle of the Colosseum with a crowd of 800,000 giving birth live on television with 800,000 witnesses, then I'm afraid some of you would still be screaming fraud and lies and not accepting the truth. I actually concur with Liz Jones, who I don't always agree with, most certainly, but on this occasion, yeah, she's right. You know, I concur with Liz Jones about all of this sophistry, and I have done since day dot. I have no doubt at all that Meghan was pregnant twice with her and Harry's children, and I've said that since day dot. And I accept and I know that some of you don't believe that she could bend in heels at 8 months pregnant or whatever she was. Well, I remember checking with a pregnant relative at that very time who was the same amount through the gestational period, and I remember checking and asking viewers, and some of you who were pregnant came back to me with your findings. You're at the same stage, and some of you said that you found it surprisingly easy to do. It depends on the body. It depends on the type. It's certainly not impossible to bend in your heels at that stage. I don't care what people tell me when they say, I've birthed 10 children, you haven't. I'm a midwife of 8,000 years experience and you wouldn't know. Well, I do know that you've been led up the garden paths, my dear. But, you know, that's your affair. I do know that Meghan had an entirely different face, let alone body, when she was pregnant with Archie and then with Lily. Everything blossomed and then shrank, blossomed and then shrank twice over. Oh, it was steroids. Oh, it was photo manipulation, even though the late Queen was standing right next to her and Archie. Her ankles didn't swell. I don't know how many pregnant, skinny people you've met throughout your time, my dear. I'm skinny and my ankles swelled up to the size of footballs. Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, I've got relatives of the same shape and size and even larger, and they didn't swell up with great big enormous cankles when they were pregnant. Everybody is different. Everybody is different. Every woman's different. And then, of course, the famous moon bump drop photograph, which convinced some people of all these conspiracy theories who are, you know, far brighter than me. They've got higher IQs than me, but it managed to convince some of these people that it wasn't just a gust of wind or an angle of the light. I mean, absolutely, plainly absurd, wild theories. And what made it very apparent and clear to me how this kind of disinformation and wild conspiracy theory spreads is through a video of my own just a couple of months ago. I did a video. It was an obvious parody. It was the one where I said I'd received a letter from Meghan Markle. And even by the thumbnail, it should have been clear that it was a joke, you know. You remember this video, my dear. It did very well, actually. And I'm not saying this about all of you. You know, it was watched by over 100,000 people. So I'm talking about a rather small minority, but a decent minority of hundreds of people seriously thought that I was being serious and that I had received a letter from Meghan. They were going to other channels, people were telling me. I actually got quite a few new subscribers because people were going to channels. Rivers received this letter from Meghan, but not just joking, saying it in all seriousness. I mean, I can't remember what I put in the letter now, but it was signed nutmeg. So you had hundreds of people actually believing me when it was a blatant joke. If you shouldn't have guessed by the thumbnail, then literally within 2 seconds of opening up this video, you should have known it was a joke. But also then people leaving comments as if I was trying to get one over on them. And I really don't think that it is from Meghan, River. And, you know, this is a bit duplicitous of you to try and pee on our leg and tell us it's raining. I mean, I ask you, it was an obvious joke. And for those who haven't been here long, if you look under every video in the video description, if it's not plain by the fact I'm sitting here in costume, jewellery and a twinkle, you know, I bring elements of parody into this and comedy. But I could not believe the amount, my darlings, the amount that thought it was real and that were going away telling people that I'd received this ridiculous letter. Seriously, it was a wake-up call for me, and it made me realise when I do mention about this pregnancy stuff, and I will get some people, some whose names I know and recognise, and I really like these people, and many of them are extremely intelligent in many other ways, but if anyone spent more than 1 or 2 seconds considering whether or not that letter that I showed, the parody letter, was genuine, then I've got to tell you, you might be many things, but you have zero skills of judgment or discernment. I'm talking zero. You know, I don't mean to disparage, but you just got to know for your own good, because it means that you're very vulnerable. But the thing is that when it comes to a situation like Meghan and the moon bump and all this kind of crap, people see this sort of vocal business in comment sections and fora and all this kind of thing, and it just gets picked up, and people who are normally rational and reasonable start questioning and going down wormholes, and all of a sudden you end up with seriously believing that Prince Harry of the royal family, for a start, would support this kind of marauding about with plastic moon bumps that are so badly fashioned that the straps don't even hold it up underneath the costume, and they just whoosh out. And, you know, the press don't manage to get any pictures of it actually rolling away, and they don't report on it, and it's all a big wild conspiracy. And people add 2 and 2 together and come out with sophistry, to be quite honest, nonsense on stilts. We've been down this road a few times, but I don't bring it up very often these days, maybe only once or twice a year, but it's worth saying for anybody new that I've never believed any of these wild rumours. It would have served me very well if I'd have propagated them, because there are a lot of people getting very rich from propagating this nonsense. There are many, many, many out there profiting from this lie, or what they believe to be the truth, because some of them do genuinely consider it to be the truth. But as more pictures emerge, as they will, as even video footage emerges of Meghan in future, as I am told behind the scenes, and I don't want to speak too much on this, but what I do know is that there is much video footage of Meghan pregnant, although I'm sure that the Yelpers will claim that it's AI or something unbelievable. That there's tons, reams and reams. This is Harry and Meghan we're talking about. They got both pregnancies on both photograph and video, and I've got a feeling you'll be seeing that in the future. But already people who have been propagating a lie are making little gentle retractions as they go along. Or they're claiming that, well, the blame lies with Meghan and with Harry because they've been withholding evidence and they won't furnish us with this, that and the fourth. And they might have a point about the fact that some information regarding the circumstances of the birth could have been proffered a couple of years ago to try and clear things up. But the fact is, no matter what you give some people, they're still going to call you out as being a liar. Folk want it to be true. They're so invested in this story that they want the lie to be true. And I'm afraid that they are never going to have that moment of unmasking. It's not going to happen. I'm setting it down here. And if ever I'm wrong, of course, if it ever was to emerge, which it won't, that I'm wrong, then it will be a very queasy moment for me because of the amount of humble pie that I'll have to sit here and eat. But sit here and eat it, I would do. But I know it's not going to happen because I know that she was pregnant and gave birth. If any sort of surrogacy was true or questions about her fertility, Harry and Meghan are the types that would have announced it. Yes, they do lie and they do duck and dive and there is sleight of hand and there is mischief and all of that. But in the realm of reality, not in the realm of fiction and fantasy, to the point of inventing pregnancies and trying to pass that off. And gladly, many of you have actually seen the light and told me this over the last couple of years. But back to the point. Yes, I think it is vulgar and it's brazen and it's distasteful to maraud, as Meghan does, by showing the photograph of her pregnancy. I think it's absolutely distasteful. Pregnancy itself is certainly not vulgar or shameful or anything short of miraculous. But the indiscretion of pamphleteering the gestation of the twining of a seed and an ovum, let alone a royal seed, is utterly infra-dig. Me and my tummy, look at me and my tummy. Oh, what a yummy mummy. Too much. Way too much, my dear. Having a little pride for your young life is fine. It should delight you, though, my dear. It should delight you and your partner and your beloved family, not be brandished to try and delight the world, you know. And also, Meghan, you can't pick and choose when you want attention, you know. You make such a great meal about the fact that you want your privacy, and then you brandish your royal gestation for attention. Vulgar. So vulgar. Princess Beatrice is not vulgar. She made another stunning appearance in New York. This was at the 2025 Matrix Awards at the Ziegfeld Ballroom. This annual event is organised by New York Women in Communications, celebrating the accomplishments of women in communications and arts, and it's recognising the outstanding female leaders. Oh, Cousin B, says Meghan. That's Princess Beatrice to you. Oh, Cousin B, spelling bee. I'm a blood princess, Meghan. Princess B. Well, I'm the Queen Bee. I'm the Queen Bee, and I want the award for Best Girl Boss. Give it to me. Give it to me. I'll snatch it. And Kate's crown. I'll snatch them all. Beatrice is wearing her black column dress by Becky Valance with 3 crystal bows to line the breast. And I've been telling you for many months, if not years, that the King's got an eye on those Yorkie girls, really wants to put them out to do his bidding. But there's the Andrew connection. However, his foundation have announced that Princess Eugenie is among a cohort of mentors for the foundation's 35 Under 35 network, a group of exceptional young people convened in the 35th anniversary of the King's Foundation, and they're working to drive the change the King wants to see in the world through sustainability, traditional crafts and the arts. And in her new role as mentor, Eugenie visited the Garrison Chapel and met with mentees. She said, "I'm delighted to be working with this group of exceptional young people who have been selected thanks to their outstanding work in areas the King is passionate about. Given that I recently celebrated my 35th birthday, it's fitting to take part in the charity's 35th anniversary celebrations and share my passion for art with the 35 under 35. And the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh had a lovely time at the Small Isles Primary School on the Isle of Jura, which I'd never heard of, by the way. It's terrible, isn't it? It's an island in the Inner Hebrides of Scotland, and it's only got 196 inhabitants, and I've got to tell you, it looks stunning. It looks stunning. Oh, I wouldn't mind sitting there with that view right now. They were received by His Majesty's Lord Lieutenant of Argyll and Bute, who is Mrs. Jane MacLeod. They visited Jura Care Centre and the Jura Distillery. Edward, of course, was gorgeous in the Earl of Wessex tartan and cosy jumper. Oh, so cosy, doesn't he look handsome? Sophie was wearing her blush pink trench by theory. Thanks for dropping in to see me. Stay fruity on royal duty and channel the royal spirit, my dear. Toodle pip.